In today's video, I'll be teaching you how you can color grade your videos in Adobe Photoshop. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is to grab a still frame, right? So this is the still frame that I want to work with. Now a still frame is just a particular portion of the video that you want to see all your colors in, or that you see all your colors in that you can work with. You get. Now the next thing I do is I make sure I open the Lumetri color and I open the scopes, right? If you can't see the Lumetri color, I just want you to come up to window and make sure Lumetri color is checked, right? So if you check the Lumetri color, you see it here, right? And if you can't see the scopes as well, I want you to come to the workspace, make sure color is checked, right? And after color is checked, you can see your scopes showing somewhere here. Okay, now maybe you wouldn't see all these three scopes here. It's very simple. You can bring them in by coming to this settings icon and make sure you've checked vector scope U, YUV, parade, RGB, and then waveform luma, right? To make sure you've checked all these three things on. These are the three things that I often use, right? Now the first thing that I do is I work on my basic adjustment. Okay, so instead of wasting time to work on a basic adjustment, what I do is I just come to auto and then click on it, and then Premiere Pro would automatically enhance my image. Let's see before and after. So you can see a change has happened. Now you can read the vector scope to see the changes that are happening, right? Now the next thing that I do is I often want my brightness level to sit on this 10 line. Okay, I want it to sit on this 10 line. So what I do is I come down to the curves, right, and I come and pick this point right here and I drag it up a bit, right, and I drag it up looking at my vector scope, right? So I drag it up looking here to see it sitting on the 10, right? So when it sits somewhere on the 10, so just as you can see, when it sits somewhere on the 10, then I'm happy, I'm cool with it. Okay, now the next thing I come and do is I create a simple S curve, right? So to create a simple S curve, what I do is I select the first top point, the highlight, drag it up a bit, drag the mid-tone back to the line, and now drag these shadows down a bit, right? So just as you can see, it's creating a very nice looking image, right? So you just draw a simple S curve like this for your image, right? Now the next thing I come and do is I come and bump up the saturation a bit. Okay, so I come back to the basic settings, and then with the saturation slider I drag it up a bit to get that saturated image, right? So I drag it up to get that saturated image, right? Now dragging the saturation up, be reading the vector scope, right? Make sure it doesn't cross this this border that they've given you. Just make sure it doesn't cross that border. Aside that, you can just be increasing it, right, and everything will look fine on social media, right? But make sure you don't cross this border, right? Now the next thing I do is I come and work or target my skin tones, right? And what do I mean by working or targeting my skin tones? I'll come to effect control up here, select it, and I'll come and pick this opacity pen tool, right? So this pen tool, you can see by the opacity, I'll come and pick it, and I'll select any portion of my skin tone, right? So I can choose to select any of the three of them. It will work, right? Because our skin has blood in it, and then regardless of our color race, we all have red blood, right? Nobody has green blood, or unless probably you're an alien, and that is why we should desist from racism. Okay, we are all one people, right? So let me just select the skin tool. So you just draw a point like this, draw a point, right? You just draw a point like this, and then you make sure you close it, right? So when you close it, this is what will happen, right? So after this happens, don't panic, your image is not gone. Just come back to the Lumetri scope, right? And this time let me just close all these. Let me close this, leaving the vector scope. Okay, let me just close these, leaving the vector scope, right? So this is what we have here now. Let me open this up. Okay, so leaving the vector scope, right? Now the next thing that we'll do is we'll make sure that this line you are seeing here sits just in the middle of this skin tone line. This line you are seeing is called the skin tone line, right? So we'll make sure that this sits just in the skin tone line, right? Now the color of anything is known as the hue. Okay, if you've watched any of my Photoshop tutorials, you understand that the color of anything is known as the hue. So what I'll do is I'll come to the curves, and then I'll come and look for hue versus hue, right? So I'll come and look for hue versus hue, and I'll pick this eyedropper tool here, click on it, and just come and click anywhere on the skin tone, right? So if I click, Premiere Pro would create 3 dots like this, right? Now your skin tone is lying in the middle dot. Okay, so looking at it, I'll be reading this vector scope and then I'll be increasing or decreasing this. Okay, so I'll take this up a bit, right? And you see when I'm taking it up, it's moving away from the skin tone line, right? So meaning I have to bring it down. So I'll carefully bring it down gently until it lies right in the middle, right? So as you can see now, it's lying in the middle of that vector scope, right? Now the next thing I can do is I can come to hue versus saturation and then bump up the saturation a bit. I'll come and select the skin tone as well, and it will give me these 3 dots, and this time I'll just increase the saturation. So just as you can see, the saturation is increasing just on the line, the skin tone line, right? So you just increase the saturation on the skin tone line, right, to make sure you are not deviating from the skin tone line. I just increasing the saturation a bit on the skin tone line. And then the next thing I'll do is I'll come back to effect control, and then where I can see the opacity, I'll just click on the FX by it, and then you can see that the FX is gone. You get. So this is basically how I, let me just undo this max. Okay, so let's go back again. So close the FX. Okay, so this is basically how I color grade my videos in Adobe Premiere Pro. Right now, the next thing, the final thing I often do is I'll come to the vignette and I'll just come and add a little bit of vignette to it, right? I'll just come and add a little bit of vignette to it to give it that focus point, right? So you can see that it would focus on my particular image, right? So this is basically how I color grade my videos in Adobe Photoshop. Now let me just open it up, right? You can see now they are beautiful looking, right? Thanks for watching, and then make sure you subscribe. I'll see you in my next video.